Hello everyone, thank you for joining me again today. In this video we'll be removing the air intake, and I wanted to cover what I consider to be probably the easiest, the most efficient way of having the intake out of the car. Now, before we start, the 4 rules: we have good lighting, we have clothes that are soft, no zippers, no buttons, we have some protection for the bodywork here on the side, and of course no jewelry. So with that in place, before we start the job, the one extra thing you may want to ensure here is that you have a bit of space on the side, so that once this whole piece comes out, you have somewhere that is clean and sort of safe to leave it until you sort of come back and continue the rest of your work here. So we have the air box where the filter resides, and there's a connection here, and then you have the actual air intake tube that goes to the throttle body. There are many ways to do this. The way I feel is the most logical and the most sort of smooth in terms of execution is to remove the entire thing together. Don't break this connection, keep this in place and just remove both together. And you'll see what I mean as we go through the process. I also feel that this is the most beneficial way in terms of what amount of space it opens up for you and what kind of access it provides you to the rest of the engine once it's out in this fashion. So why I think this is the easiest, one of the reasons is that you only need an 8mm socket or wrench and no other tools. Really, that's all you need, an 8mm. Now, step number 1, what I do is I disconnect this full load breather hose. This is like an auxiliary connection here into the tube, and it's very simple. You just squeeze on the plastic tab here, and you would pull onto this 90-degree elbow, and you pull out. That's it. Now listen to it. Click. It's connected. Squeeze and pull. Disconnected. Let's do it again. Connected. Disconnected. Super easy. Once this is out, turn it this way. Now it clears the rest of the engine and it's not in the way. It's ready to be removed with the rest of the tube. One note here, I prefer to take this out because there's plenty of length here which allows me flexibility to pull this back. If I were to try this end, there's much less, like I'll have to be compressing this accordion section, and it is just much harder to try to pull this out of the way. So going here first makes sense. It's very easy. You turn it out of the way. This is done. Step number 2, you want to disconnect your mass airflow sensor, the electrical connection that goes to the mass airflow sensor. Just press on the tab, pull back. This is out of the way. Done. At this point, you move on to step 3. This is where the tool comes in. You need to loosen the 2 bolts. One is here, and the other one is here. Once they're loosened, you can just remove them by hand. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. All right. This completes the tool section. At this point, you can pull this out. There it is. Now, there are 2 things that could happen here. This rubber ring could stay with the throttle body, or it could come out with the intake tube. Either way is fine, but it does matter what you do with it at the time of reinstalling the intake. So once we get to that point, I'll pay some more attention to it. But for now, it stays with the throttle body. That's totally fine. So we're disconnected here, disconnected here, disconnected here. The only thing remaining is the airbox, and it's relatively easy. Just clips. 1, 2, 3. They're pretty tight. 3 on this side, 4 on this side, and of course there has to be one that is hard to get to. It's right underneath here, and the way I get to it, now you have good amount of movement, by the way, up and down. The way I get to it is through here, through the side, and I would reach it and pull that as well. There it is. And now everything is loose. You're ready to take this out. The next thing to pay attention to is, as you start separating the airbox, you will see the filter inside. And the filter, again, it may want to come out with the top part of the airbox, or it may want to stay with the bottom part. What you want is you want to make sure that the filter stays with the bottom part of the airbox. If it does, I'm just pushing it down now, making sure that it stays down. Once it stays with the bottom part, it's very easy to remove the top. And there it is. This is what comes out. Now, at this point, when you take this item to a safe place, you may choose to take out your mass airflow sensor, clean that separately. You could completely disconnect this tube, clean that separately. You could disconnect here, inspect your pipe inside, and so on. But working on this away from the car, I find is a much better and a safer thing to do. So let's put this to the side at this point. And this is the filter. You can now take your filter out, change your filter if you want to, if you need to. Mine is brand new, so there's not much to do here. But I will bring you on this side now, and we can inspect what opens up in front of you once the air intake is out. Just give me a moment to grab the camera. All right. There we go. So now that the air intake is out, there are a lot of things that you have access to. Let me turn the flash on. There we go. So let's start left to right. Of course, the throttle body, right? You could inspect it. You may need to clean it. The throttle positioning sensor is here. There are a bunch of other connections below, above, that you may need to do something with. Again, inspect them, clean them, and so on. A lot of hoses at the back there with some electrical connections, easy to access. Now you have basically visibility. You can check for leaks. You can connect, disconnect things if you need to. There's a Goodyear hose over there. I'm actually not sure if this is coolant. This may be a coolant hose or air conditioning hose. I'm not sure. But again, you have good visibility. You have you see your heat shield here. There's another piece of wiring sort of harness that is wrapped into this heat shield. You can even see your catalytic converter. So you see this is the top oxygen sensor right there. The phone is having trouble. Oh, there it is. The top oxygen sensor. There's another one below it. There it is. Right, so you see your catalytic converters. Moving on this way. Here's the cover. Which covers the ignition coils and the spark plugs. You see how easy it is now to remove that cover. Remove the cover, get access to the coils, get access to the plugs. I did a full video on that process on the other bank of the engine. And on this side it's identical, it's just the only extra step is removing the intake, which we just did. So once the intake is out, you can repeat the same process on this side. Of course, once you know this section is done, moving more to the right, here's the bottom part of your airbox. Make sure that it's clean, vacuum it up, maybe wipe it with a wet cloth. Make sure that's clean, and you know, no debris or dirt gets sucked into your filter. I mean, the filter stays on top, but still, keeping it clean is of course better. Now, one extra thing you could do here, there's one extra bolt. I mean, I can tackle this in a different video, but there's this one extra bolt only that holds the whole thing in place. It has its own kind of plastic feet sticking down on the other side, and it goes into the body of the car. Anyways, only this bolt is required to be removed for this whole piece to come out. And when that piece comes out, you then have access to your alternator, which is right down there. So if you need to change your alternator, you can do it through here. You don't need to go under the car. It is doable through here. It's a bit of a tight fit, but it's doable. You can remove the alternator, take it out through the opening here, and then put the new one in, mount it, and so on. Yeah, so I will put the phone back at this point, and we will reinstall the intake, because there are a couple of things that I wanted to bring your attention to, and mainly the main thing is over here. So let's do that. Okay, we're back. Now I'll put the air filter back in and seat it completely in its place here. Make sure all the tabs are down, the metal hooks are down. Now, with this component back in play, what you want to do, by the way, every time you take out plastic or rubber parts like this, it's a great opportunity to rejuvenate them and help them, like remoisturize them, help the plastic become flexible again, reduce the chances of cracking over time, breaking altogether, and so on. It's the same with this component, right? It's a rubber, essentially it's a gasket, making sure that no extra air leaks in into the throttle body. So it's great to soak this into vinyl, rubber, and plastic sort of product, which would make it flexible, rejuvenate it, and keep it functioning well. Now, when you're reinstalling, it is much easier if this piece is mounted to the air intake tube rather than staying here. So take it out. If it is mounted to the throttle body, take it out, place it back in here, press it well so that it's seated well, and once that's in place, you can now carefully sort of actually the easiest way to do it is start right to left. So first, make sure the wiring harness is up, position your air box properly over the filter, and make sure that it's well seated so that there are no gaps, right? That the top and the bottom match perfectly. And once they do, just close it up, close it in place. Okay, like fix this part of the whole assembly. Make sure that that's in place. Make sure you reach that one extra one and snap that also. Once that's in place, I would leave this to the very end, but you can then go here. You have a lot of play. Your gasket is connected to the plastic top. Don't forget the gasket. Don't lose it. Make sure that it's in place before you reassemble. And once the gasket is connected up here, this just slides down super easy. If it's connected to the throttle body, you're going to have a hard time fitting it in. That's how it is. Trial and error, that's what I have figured out over time. So this goes in super easy. Your bolts are ready to be reconnected here. The box is already secure. You plug in your mass airflow sensor, click. You turn this around. You push it down, the full load breather, click, and you're done. That's it. You now have a brand new filter. If you needed to do any other work, that's done, and you're back in play. I mean, of course, don't forget the bolts. And that's basically it. I hope this was helpful. Sort of 2-minute removal and 2-minute reinstall at most. I think that's pretty good for a low profile front end with a big V8. Well, it's a V8. It's not a big V8, but it's a V8 under the hood. It's packaged pretty well, and it is serviceable. I can't complain. All right, folks, have a good one. Take care.